Hey friends, it's Kelsey and I am going to go over all of the books that I read in February. I read 11 books and today I'm going to share with you how I read them, what I thought of them, what stars I gave them, and give a little non-spoiler review of them so you too can go read them. I will make a list of all the books that I read down below in the link so that you can go and maybe check these books out yourself. I started my month off, I'm going to put it right here because I read it on Kindle. I read Lauren Asher's Love Redesigned, which follows Julian and Delilah, who were childhood friends but rivals. They came from two families who loved each other, but they were definitely rivals within those two families. And they are forced back together because of some circumstances, and they fall in love. It's small town. It's forced a little bit of forced proximity. They're forced to be near each other. It's rivals. It's childhood friends. It's super cute. I really enjoyed it. I like Lauren Asher's writing. Lauren Asher's writing is a little bit more on the fun, fluffy side for me, and I love that. It's still got lots of spice. It's still got lots of that, but it's not super intense, and I love that about Lauren Asher. So she brought that. It takes place in the same town that the end of the billionaire series that she wrote. Why can't I think of the name of it? With Cal, Declan, and Rowan. Took place. I can't think of the name of it, but if you liked that series, it takes place in the same town that happened in, where Cal's story took place. So Cal pops up. You see characters that you already knew. I love that that's something that she does, is she interweaves characters from her other series just seamlessly into her stories, which I loved. And I just loved the dynamic between Julian and Delilah, and how Julian just he doesn't give up on her. I loved that dynamic a lot. And so I gave this book 4.25 stars. I highly recommend that you go and read it. The next thing that I read was a series. I read this mammoth series by Simone. And if you've watched my last video, you know that Simone is one of my favorite authors. So these 4 books are the Thornchapel series, and you start with Thorn of Roses, and then you read Feast of Sparks, and then you read Harvest of Sighs, and then you read Door of Bruises. And it follows a group of friends. It's led by Auden. And I'm going to tell you, this is literally the spiciest freaking series I've ever read. So please, please, for the love of the Holy Baby Jesus, go check your trigger warnings before you read this book. There's a lot of triggering things in these books, and I was not prepared. I am a spicy romance reader, but holy Lord, I was not prepared for these books. I liked them, which says a lot about me, and if my therapist is anywhere near these videos, please turn away. Miss Diane, turn away, because we don't need to talk about why I liked these books. I liked these books. The first one is Thorn of Roses, and it introduces you to the group. It introduces you to what, I don't want to spoil them, so I'm just going to tell you, introduces you to what the group does. And I gave this book 4.5. And then the next one is, and this book mostly focuses on the main female character, and they are all dual points of view. And so there are multiple friends in the group, and you get multiple points of view. The first book is mostly one point of view, but as you go through the series, you get more points of view. So that was also interesting. So the first one is mostly one point of view. The second one, you get more points of view as you go, but this one, which is Feast of Sparks, I also gave 4.5. and it gives a little bit more backstory as to what happens, and it gives a little bit more into the history between Auden and one of the characters, Saint Sebastian, and a little bit as to their like craziness. Then the next one is Harvest of Sighs, and this was my least favorite of the books. It was the slowest for me. I felt like it kind of like took forever to get to the point of why these books are. And if you read the books, you'll know what I mean. Like, it took forever to get there. So I only gave this one 4.25. It took a really long time to get to the point. But this one mostly follows the two of the three girls. It follows the two girls in that. And then this one, Door of Bruises, that wraps everything up, I gave 4.75. But I was not a huge fan of the ending of this series. It gave me what I'm going to call a book hangover, and it took me a really long time to get out of the book hangover, because the ending of this series, although it has a happy ending, I'm going to tell you that it does have a happy ending. There was a period of time there when I was really worried it wasn't, and I was texting one of my friends incessantly, having to have her remind me that it has a happy ending, because I was very, very worried it wasn't going to. I was very stressed. I was very stressed it wasn't going to have a happy ending. It does have a happy ending. It did have a happy ending, but the ending just felt flat. But I still loved it enough to give it a 4.75, because it just took everything that was, and it was just so intense, and it was so intense. And even though the ending was a little flat, it was just like all of this led to this. And all of this developed into this. And we got so much of this, meant that this had so much like that had to be dealt with and wrapped up and figured out. And there was just so much chaos that was developed in this, and so much angst and romance and power and mess and love and hate and passion that had to be like fought for in this, and I loved that. And so if you like a spicy, messed up, crazy book, I highly recommend this series. But I think I said it in my other video, something that I love about Simone is her characters are so well developed that it feels like they're like your best friends, like right here sitting down for coffee with you. And so I love that about this series, is even though this series is like, what the is happening, like even in the spicy world, you're like, holy Jesus, please forgive me. I felt like they were my friends, so I felt like I was like, okay, we can still be friends, like, because they were like so well developed. But it is like, search up your trigger warnings for the Thornchapel series. But overall, I rate this whole series. I'm going to rate the whole series. I give this whole series a 4.5 as a series. I think you should read it. I think you should go into it with your trigger warnings, and I think you should go into it knowing that it is going to mess with you and be a mind fuck. But I really enjoyed it, and I don't know if that says something strange about me. If it does, again, Miss Diane and me will talk about it, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Miss Diane and me will have something to talk about. So, Thornchapel series. The next book that I read, because after the Thornchapel series, I was in like a really strange space. I was in a really strange, like, I don't know what to do. So I literally just picked up something on Kindle that was totally outside my norm, totally outside what I would normally do, totally random. So I picked up the Fireborne book by, I have to look at her name, Rosaria Mundara. I don't know if I'm even saying that right. And it follows Annie and Lee, and it's dual point of view. It's not really a romance. It's a fantasy book. It's not a romance at all. It's got very, very, very little romance in it. I wouldn't even call it a romantasy. It's like Hunger Games meets Fourth Wing. And so it was really interesting. They're developing a new government. There's dragons. There's aristocracy, there's like flying and fighting and dragon wars, and there's secrecy, and there's complexity, and it was totally different and what I needed to like totally cleanse my palate, and I gave it a 3.5 stars. It did the trick for me. It cleansed the palate. For me, like top fantasy novels are definitely like fourth wing. So when I pick up a fantasy novel, it's really hard for me to like get into a world like that, especially when it was like dragons. I had high expectations, and it didn't obviously meet those expectations, but it was still good. And I think it was a book that if you're like a preteen or even a teenager and you're not really into the like romantic-y stuff, you could read this book and enjoy it. And it was something that you could follow and not be, it's closed door, mostly. There's no graphicness to it, so you could follow it and be completely fine. There's kissing, but that's about it. And the plot line to it was very interesting, and the plot line to it was very it was complicated enough that someone could follow it, and it is what was driving the book, was the plot and the like unraveling of this like new government, and the unraveling of this society, and the unraveling of what to do now that this revolution was over. And I thought that was really something totally different and outside of my zone. Then I listened to Sexy as Sin by Willow Winters, and that follows Kat and Killian and Reed. And it's mostly told from Kat's point of view and Killian's point of view. And I only gave it a 3 stars, and here's why. I wanted more. I needed more. I desired more. I didn't feel like any of those characters developed enough for me in that book. I didn't feel like I got to know them. I didn't feel like I got to be with them. It's a motorcycle club, second chance romance. And I literally, by the end of the book, I was like, who are these characters? Who are these people? And why am I supposed to be rooting for them? Like, why? Like, I'm along for the ride. And the spice is spicing. And I kind of sort of like Kat and Killian. And somewhere along the line, this Reed guy pops into the picture. But like, why am I supposed to be rooting for you? Other than the fact that you're in like, why? Why? So I only gave it a 3 star. I was a little sad that the character development didn't happen faster. The character development didn't like pull me in and like make me want to root for them at all. Like, I was really a little sad by that, because I usually love Willow Winters books. Something cool about Willow Winters books is if you go to her YouTube channel, she has 3 or 4 of her books on her YouTube channel that you can listen to. So if you're interested in like what her books are about, or if you want like a preview or a taste before you go buy a whole bunch of her books, because you should, you can go listen to a few of them on her YouTube channel. Plug for Willow Winters. And then after I read Sexy as Sin, I got ready for the newest release from Catharina Maura. So I listened to, but I have it here, The Unwanted Marriage, which is Damien and Faye. God, I love Damien. Damien is, trigger warnings for this book, trigger warnings for all of her books. Just look them up. You really want to look up trigger warnings, but God, Damien, my man. If you have praise kink, read this book, because he is dude knows how to praise a woman. Like, like, God, I love him. And Faye is such a sweet and beautiful like soul, and she's gone through so much, and so has Damien, and I just love them. I love them. I love this whole series, the Windsor Brothers series. If you're looking for a good series to pick up the Windsor Brothers series. Then after that, I listened to Broken Vow. Broken Vow is probably, sorry, it's my least favorite of the Windsor Brothers. I know that's a controversial opinion, but it's Zane and Celeste. Zane for me is a little bit too angsty. There's reason for it, and this is the second time I've read the book, and the second time through, I was like, okay, I see it. I understand it. I the first time I read it through, I remember telling my friend, I was like, no sir, like, no, like, I do not like them. I was very sad. This time, I'm like, I can see it, I can understand it, I can wrap my mind around it. Like, I'm much more prepared for them. There's some miscommunication. There's some of the tropes that I just don't like in this book. But I gave it a higher rating this time. I forgot to tell you. I gave Damien and Faye get a 4.75 from me. They're not quite Luca and Val. Luca and Val are my favorite, and they are 5 stars all the way. I don't get 5 stars very often. Luca and Val get 5 stars. Damien and Faye, just like Ari and Raven, get 4.75. Zane and Celeste get a 4-star from me. They fit in the world so well. One of the things about this world that I love is that the family is mixed in all the time. You get the interactions between the brothers and the sister-in-laws. You get the interactions between... It's just such a fun world to be in, and it's such a fun place to read. And I highly, highly recommend you read it. And then the newest one came out, and I was so excited about it, and that is Lex and Rhea. I loved them. I thought they were so fun. Seriously, I read it on Kindle, and my husband, we were on a trip, and I was literally like on the trip, like trying to be present, but I was like on my Kindle, like reading. And then I put it down, and then I was reading some more. And then people were like, could you be with us? And I was like, no, I am with Lex and Rhea. Y'all knew this book was coming out. I loved it so freaking much. I loved them so, so much. They were all that I wanted. All that I needed. Lex is like, I knew Lex was going to be one of my favorite brothers, like just knew it from like the beginning of the series. He stole my heart. He stole my heart from like page 1 of this book. And Rhea is she's like a mix of some of the other sister-in-laws, and she's so great. I loved her so, 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 so much. And, I love the little glimpses of the rest of the family that we got. We got some glimpses from Sierra and Xavier. We got some glimpses from the others. I loved how some of the other family came to wrap themselves around Leia. That's their nickname now. Hey, Lex and Rhea in some tough times. I loved how we got just some understanding of the characters better. I really, really liked this book a lot, and I gave it a 4.5 stars. It's her newest one. We have one more left in the series, and that's Sierra and Xavier's book, and I just saw that it's released to come out soon, like this year still. So I'm really excited about that. That will be on my list. You will hear more about that from me this year. And then the last book that I read this month was Allie Hazelwood's Check and Mate. It is so stinking cute. I don't know nothing about chess. I still don't know nothing about chess after reading this book, but this book was so stinking cute. I loved it. It follows Nolan and Mallory. It's told from Mallory's point of view only. It's a closed-door book, so anyone can read it. It's a YA novel. I loved it. I loved the fact that she so fights for her family in this book. I love the fact that she is so caring and kind and determined. I love the fact that chess is the theme. We don't see that very often. That's like a new one for me. I've never seen a book that chess is the theme. That was so fun for me. I love the little found family that she finds through chess. I love that he is so fights for her when she doesn't even know she needs fighting for. he fights for her. And that's something that I adored. And this book was it was a fast read. I read it in like a day. It's a super fast read. It's a super easy read. It's age appropriate for pretty much anybody. 10 out of 10, super cute, super fun, super fluffy, great way to end the month. I gave this book a 4-star. So those are the 11 books that I read this month. I am so excited to keep doing these videos for you and so excited to keep sharing the books that I'm reading. Next month, I'm hoping that we'll continue this trend of 11 to 12 plus books. I can't wait to see what books we read next month. Till then, I love you all. Mwah, mwah.